My name's Eric Welander. Welcome back to my channel. So oftentimes I'll get products into review and then let you guys know what I think. But I also think that sometimes it's useful to go back and look at, what are the products that I've reviewed that really stand out to me, either as something I just love having in my home, it's worked really reliably over the many months since I reviewed it, or something that just didn't add up quite as much and is maybe a product you'd want to avoid. So this is the 2021 edition of 3 smart home products to buy and 3 to avoid. So first we're going to start with the to buy list, and top of my list, digging back into the archives from last year, is the Starling Home Hub. Now this has actually been a really useful product for me. I use this all the time with controlling my Nest thermostat and my Nest Detect smoke detectors in my home. And I think those are 2 examples of products where Nest makes really good products, but personally I want to be automating my home mostly in Apple HomeKit. And so the Starling Home Hub allows me to have my Nest products inside of HomeKit, so I can tell my HomePods to change the temperature, and I do all the time. Or I can have scenes like for setting up filming down here that turn off the AC and the heating so I don't get that coming on messing up the audio as I'm filming. Another example is that unfortunately this past weekend we had a false alarm with the fire with one of our smoke detectors, and that I got a notification from the Nest app on my phone, which I of course keep on there to just as a backup to manage things, but I also got the Apple HomeKit alert that came through the Starling Home Hub about the smoke alarms going off right there as well at the same time. So it's really nice to be able to have Apple HomeKit to be able to manage Nest products and to take advantage of some of the cool things that Nest is doing while not completely leaving my Apple ecosystem. Now I paid for the Starling Home Hub up front, but I did get them to bump me up to the front of the line so I could review it early on for you guys, but it's plenty availability now as far as I know, so link in the description of course. Next up on the list is the Nanoleaf Essentials light bulb. Now I've done a lot of talk recently about Thread and what that means for your smart home, and there's been some developing news around that with Matter, but I still really think that this Nanoleaf Essentials A19 bulb is just the new default choice when you're looking for smart bulbs. Beyond the Thread capabilities, this is just a really well-made light. It has a great range of colors and brightness levels. It works really well with Apple HomeKit, which is how I automate my home. And at $20 it's a great value. You don't have to get a hub or anything to get it to work, so I'd highly encourage checking out the Nanoleaf A19 bulb. Now Nanoleaf has worked with me on a variety of different projects in the past, including my video on Thread, but for the record, at least at this point, I've purchased all of the A19 Nanoleaf bulbs in my home. Next one on the list is the EcoVacs N8 Pro Plus. So I reviewed this earlier this year. It's a robot vacuum from EcoVacs D-Bot, and it just works really well. Now the one caveat here is it doesn't work all that well with Siri shortcuts. I'd say about half the time the Siri shortcut actually works, but overall I just actually end up using the app, and I find that it's just a really nice robot vacuum, and it seems to be a few $100s less than a lot of its competition. So if you're in the market for a new robot vacuum, particularly in the higher end of the market, I'd highly recommend considering the N8 Pro Plus. For me, with 3 children and 2 jobs and all kinds of other stuff going on, I don't have time to vacuum. And so being able to use the robot vacuum to extend the period of time to the point where between when someone actually has to vacuum the basement, it's huge. I've been really happy with that as a product. Now again, they sent me that robot vacuum for review free of charge, so take that as you will. Now comes the juicy part. 3 products to avoid. Well, one I think that headlines the sort of Apple home, smart home space of the past year is the Logitech doorbell. We were all really excited when it came out, and I did a review on this channel that you might have already seen, And it continues to work well for me, but there's been so many reports of people having problems with overheating, particularly in areas where you get the direct sunlight right on your doorbell. Now, the doorbell, my doorbell is completely in the shade, so it's been able to survive the relatively hot Midwest summers we get of like 90 degrees Fahrenheit or so. And that's been fine. And, it does occasionally drop Wi-Fi for a few minutes in the day and then come back on. But in general, I found it to be a very reliable device, and I'm definitely going to keep it as my doorbell. But it does leave the open question of, I don't know if it's anymore the default recommendation of if you're getting into smart home stuff and you want to have everything kind of talk to Apple HomeKit. Well, are you gonna get the Logitech doorbell? Probably not. So, it's still, the search is out for the ideal perfect doorbell. I think if you want some privacy first local options, there's Netatmo and Eufy that have some good ones. I'm really interested in what Google's been doing recently with their new Nest doorbells, although I don't have them here to try. So, we'll see what comes out in the coming year, but I think it's definitely a space to keep an eye on. And if you have a front door that's completely in the shade, then you probably do great with the Logitech doorbell, but that's definitely not everybody. Next up on my list to avoid is the VocaLink air purifier. Now, I reviewed this earlier this year on my channel, and overall it's worked pretty well as an air purifier, just as you would expect. But it's been kind of weird. It seems VocaLink has maybe stopped selling that along with a lot of their other products. You can't get, when you go to vocalink.com, it just says we'll be back soon. There's like no website, and it's been that way the entire summer. My contacts at the company have just gone cold. I emailed them a few weeks ago, haven't heard anything. So, we'll see. I'm not able to get the filters for my air purifier to replace them on Amazon. I did get the air purifier with the existing filter supplied to me for free. Yeah, I just think because it's unclear if VocaLink's going to stay in that market or if you'd even be able to get a hold of one of those air purifiers these days, it's probably best to hold off on that, or maybe any of the products that VocaLink makes that are like a more significant investment in money. We'll see. I hope for me and for you, if you've bought one of those air purifiers, that they do come back online making more filters and everything else. It's, just a tough time for a lot of companies these days. But I do have a new air purifier that a different company sent me that I will be making a video on very soon. So be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss that. Now, number 3 on my list of products to avoid is the Eve Aqua. Now, Eve as a smart home company makes fantastic products. I've done videos where I work with Eve in the past, and they sent me this Aqua to check out, and it's really great that it uses thread technology. It just feels like a really well-made product. I had no issues setting it up. But one of the concerns that I had specifically for my home, and it might be the same for your home, is that my spigots on the outside of my house are original to the home, which means they're, over 20 years old now, and they've been through a bunch of cold winters, and just the valves and things, arguably you could say they need to be replaced, but they're good enough to use with a basic hose. The problem is that when you put something like the Eve Aqua on it, it just kind of messes with the water pressure to the point where you start to get, water coming back at various points and leaking. And, arguably I should get some more thorough maintenance done on my faucet so that I can use the Eve Aqua. But I would just say that if you have an older home with older spigots and you're just able to simply use a garden hose and the faucet doesn't seem to really leak that much, be wary. Something like this is basically the equivalent of like if you left the hose plugged in and then the nozzle on the top of the hose and left the hose on. That's basically what you're doing with the Eve Aqua, where it's opening and closing the valve to let the water through. So, I'm not a plumber. I'm not an expert in that part of this area. I am impressed by the smart home qualities of this product. And I think if you have a newer home with newer spigots or things, it's a really cool concept to be able to automate things like your sprinkler, especially during the hot summer when it's tough to remember to actually do that yourself. But again, just approach it with caution and realize that you might need to return it if it doesn't quite work out with the way your spigots are set up. Now, you probably see a video here on the screen somewhere that's hopefully something you're also interested in that I've made. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss some of these new videos coming. I'm really excited about a number of the different videos that I'm working on coming to the channel very soon. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.